everybody, Dana Mitchell, and today's topic for the podcast is paper, paper, paper. We all have it, really don't know how to deal with it, and not sure where to store it. So we're going to talk about some tricks and tips on dealing with paper. Did you know that it is estimated that 80% of the filed papers that we have are never looked at again? So is that a high percentage for you, or is that low? Now, that number may be getting better for most of us. I know it is for me because there's so much information that's available electronically, but it really is difficult for people to go totally paperless. And a couple of the reasons are some people just love paper. I've worked with clients that just like that paper around. They like to see it. They like to smell that paper smell, like to be able to touch the paperwork when they need it. Or you may be someone that doesn't trust institutions or other people to keep your paperwork for you. I ran into a situation trying to get a canceled check where I thought I'll just go online and get a copy. Isn't that part of the deal of having everything online? Well, I found out that the bank had already archived the paperwork I needed, and I had to pay a $25 charge to get a copy of that canceled check. So that was quite surprising. So I have now started downloading monthly or quarterly information from my bank so I have it when I need it and not have to go back in the archives. Every bank is different, of course, but that happened with mine. And then the last little piece of this going paperless issue is most of us have mail that we are still receiving in our mailbox, and a lot of us struggle with how to sort that and how to manage that. So let's talk about mail first. That's an interest of mine, as a matter of fact. I grew up with a father that procrastinated about handling mail and paperwork. That was something he just detested doing. So he would pull out the bills every day, whatever would come in the mail, he would pull out the bills, but then he would wait to deal with all the other paperwork maybe once a week or every 2 weeks. So that created piles of mail around the kitchen. And then that translated into piles of mail in paper bags, back when we had paper bags. And it just became a really big problem for him, and I think he still struggles with that today. So our first tip is how to sort your mail. This is what I do, and I suggest to you, sort your mail quickly as you're walking in the door. I do it usually as I'm walking from the mailbox to the house. I am going through, seeing what's in there. I'm pulling out things that are important. And if you sort it as you immediately come into the house, you can weed out junk mail first instead of putting a pile down somewhere that you have to walk back to later. Because what happens is life gets busy, you're trying to end your day, maybe you have children you're trying to feed, and you will never go back to it. Or if you do, it is a couple days later after you've gotten a really big pile. So if you can weed down all the junk mail first, then you really have a very small pile that you have to go through. Then next, pull out bills and keep them in a designated area so they won't get lost in the mail shuffle. And I suggest using some kind of expandable file. Maybe you have that stored right where you enter the door. You could have a family command center, or you could tuck that up on top of the refrigerator. In this file, have it set up with labels and have it in kind of that tickler file method where you have a section where the bills come in, and maybe you could separate it by days of the month and tuck the bill in a week or two prior to when it's due. That way you could just go through every day as you bring in your mail and look at what you have for today, what you have for tomorrow, and then go ahead and distribute the mail if it's bills or invitations or something like that that you have to handle that needs action. Go ahead and distribute it into your tickler file. The reason this is so important is because there is a cost associated with paying your bills late. Either you have a late fee, or if you've done that too many times, then your utilities or whatever can get cut off. So this is a hot topic for most people, how to handle your mail, specifically your bills. Another tip is let's try to reduce the amount of mail that you're getting. Have you gone through the process of opting out of junk mail? And if you've never heard of this, there are different websites and phone numbers that you can call to opt out from receiving offers in the mail, all these credit card notices, all that kind of stuff. So now that we've talked about the different types of mail that's coming in, let's figure out what to do with it. We talked about a tickler file. That's a great idea. But what about all that, what I'm going to call reference material that you receive? Maybe it's medical information that you've got to keep up with, your medical EOBs that you get from the insurance company, or maybe it's for one of your family members if you're taking care of children that have special needs, or if you're taking care of your parents and helping them. How do we keep up with that information? Or maybe it's financial paperwork. In fact, we just started a college savings plan for my daughter, and there is all kinds of paperwork coming in from that. And then the other piece of this would be, how do you keep up with your insurance information, like all your different policies? That is something I've recently handled for a client. So my answer to all of these are binders. Binders, notebooks are my favorite. And you can do so much with a notebook, and they're inexpensive. You can get them sometimes at the dollar store or at Walmart. If you put together binders for these different types and categories of information, then you can easily sort through the information quickly if you need it. It's portable. You can take it with you. And you can protect it by using sleeve protectors if you need to. So I love binders. So let's get more specific, and let me give you some details. Let's take, for example, a binder that houses all your insurance information. Now, when I'm talking about insurance, I'm talking about all your different policies. Now, this is something that most people don't think about. Putting together a binder that you can grab at a moment's notice, or it could be available for a family member in case of an emergency. And before you say it, I know that you're going to say, Dana, who has time for that? I have so many things that I'm trying to do. Who is going to have time to make a binder? Well, you would be surprised at how much time you save. Whenever you need to access that information, or if there was an emergency, and that's really what you're planning for. If there was an emergency and you needed to call somebody quickly, whether it is calling your insurance company about a fire or something going on with your car or something catastrophic in your family, you have all that information together, and you're not having to send somebody to your house to run around and try to gather up information from different file folders, or go in the basement for this and go in the office for that. So it's all right there when you need it. And so that's really what getting organized is all about, is having a plan, having information when you need it, and hopefully you will never have to use it. So I recently put this together for a client of mine, and this client had not only personal policies, but owns multiple businesses and had business policies too. So we put together a binder that was grouped by different categories, personal versus business. Not only that, she was also keeping up with information for her family. And so we had 3 categories: personal, business, and then family policies. We had a section for each, and then within each section we labeled and had little dividers for each type of policy. If she needed to flip right to some type of liability policy for her business, then she could find that quickly and easily. The other cool thing we did is we created a summary that goes in the front of the notebook. And so this is an overall view of the information. In case you only had time to pull one thing, you could pull the summary. And so I did this in Excel, but you could do it by hand on paper. But the columns that I included, I'll give those to you. The type, so basically the category, whether it's auto insurance or life insurance or retirement or any of the different types of policies. Take a look at what you have, group them up, and then create some kind of category name for that. I included the policy number, the effective date, the company name, their address, the contact name, their phone number, the type of coverage, if there's a dollar amount tied to it, like life insurance, for example, and then also a notes column. In this notes column, you could put information like the actual policy can be found in the basement in the burn box, or I need to contact this person on such and such a day just to make sure everything's intact. So that's the summary. Love that. Love that. And I've done this for all of our own personal insurance policies as well. And it's been very, very helpful. All right. So I like to try to keep these podcasts pretty small so you don't have a whole lot of information that you're trying to think about. So let's wrap up. We've talked about mail, paperwork coming in, how to handle that. My tip is to sort through it quickly as you're coming in the door. Opt out of junk mail. And then we talked about tickler files. Tickler files are great. You can create this and put it at your command center, put it at your desk. A lot of my clients use this in the office. A tickler file for home use, we talked about putting in your bills. Other items that could go in here could be permission slips for your kids. You could write in pencil on the permission slip, maybe the items that you need to send for that day or any other notes that you need. Invitations to different parties. Tuck that in a tickler file on the date you want to RSVP, and then once you've RSVP'd, make a note that you did and who you talked to, or if you emailed it or texted the RSVP, and the date you did that. And then the last idea would be birthday cards. You could preemptively put together birthday cards for a particular month or down the road, and you could go ahead and stamp your envelope. You can address the envelope, that kind of thing, and that'll get you ahead of the game. And so do that with your tickler. Now the tickler file, make sure that you either weekly or daily look at what information is in that particular section of your tickler file, and then you need to take action on it. I really hope these tips are helpful, and I really appreciate you listening to the podcast. I love doing these. These are very fun for me, and I hope that you get a lot of information that you can use and take action on. Don't forget, we always need your reviews on iTunes. That helps to bump us up and that other people can find us. So go to iTunes and give us your review. Thanks again. This is Dana Mitchell, and I will talk to you soon. Happy organizing.